Hello, and welcome to Transformation by Truth podcast, where the called become the chosen, and those who have been dedicated to serve the Most High receive the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as we progress our quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. My name is D.L. Anderson. I'll be your tour guide. Let's get started with today's lesson. Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast and the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. Today, we have another brief word from your host, a reminder that exciting times are on the way. The title of today's podcast is The Truth About Ministry. But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, make full proof of thy ministry. 2 Timothy 4:5. The podcast objectives are provide you with a personal update of what's transpiring in my life, share the topic of the upcoming lessons in the Impromptu Series, and remind you of the ultimate goal and the realization of ministry. Now, our first section is entitled Personal Update. As I informed you last week, I will be moving very soon, as the Father has been leading me. Things have become very real, as we are only a few days away from putting our house on the market. The good news is that the market we are in is very good for sellers, especially in our price range. And so it is very likely that our house will sell in a matter of days. That's the kind of action we're seeing in this market. The challenge is we don't have a place to go. We have options, but the Father has not yet made it clear to us where he wants us. And so there is a considerable amount of faith we are having in this process and in his guidance. This may sound daunting for some, but it has truly become commonplace for me. As you will see in the upcoming phase, the quest for holiness is a faith walk. For walking by faith is the only way to make progress. It is the only way to live. Romans 1:16 through 17 reads, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehudi first, and also to the Greek. For in it, the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from faith to faith, as it has been written, the just shall live by faith. For that reason, I do not desire anyone to be concerned about this matter. Even so, I do welcome your prayers. Believe me, I have been through and succeeded much more difficult circumstances than these. I know where Elohim has brought me from, and I know where he is leading me. And where he leads me, I will follow, even if I must follow him on my own." Now, our next section is entitled, The Devastation of False Ministries. As I mentioned last week, the Father has led me to create a series of impromptu podcasts during this transition season for me and my family. Recently, the Spirit revealed the next lesson series he desires for me to teach. It is not a new topic, but it is a topic he wants me to expound upon. Like I said before, we went through the preliminary phase very quickly, and we shared a terrific amount of information in a short amount of time. From now, I am being led to focus on some of the more critical topics that were discussed. to prepare those who have been called to this ministry for what is to come. And as it so happens, I have been led to begin with the topic of ministry. Now, during the feature week, I provided a high-level account of ministry. I shared the requirements for those who have been called to minister, and I analyzed the need for every member to be led by the Spirit. What I didn't focus on at that time is the devastation of ministries that failed to meet these requirements. At that time, my focus was primarily on sharing the good news about Pinnacle of Holiness Ministries and reaching a select audience. This time, the Spirit is leading me to speak out against the false ministries in our world because they are everywhere and they are doing great harm, not only to the men and women whose lives are being ruined, but they are also doing great harm to themselves. I want to begin by offering the following interest point on this critical topic. I advise anyone currently in ministry and anyone who desires the office of a minister to consider it faithfully and don't forget it. We will all experience condemnation and judgment for every transgression and deviation from the Father's will. However, those who are called to minister and those who call themselves ministers will receive the greater condemnation. They will experience greater judgment. James 3:1 reveals, not many of you should become teachers, i.e. ministers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. This verse focuses on the office of teaching, but it extends to every ministerial office. This is because each office is designed to build up and to edify every member within the assembly, teaching and leading by example. When done right, a very beautiful thing occurs, and I believe it is the most wonderful occasion in our world. When done wrong, a terrible thing occurs, and it may be the greatest disaster in our times and for all time. And I have been called to speak out against it. Now, our next section is entitled, The Realization of Ministry. Before I begin to address the false ministries ruining the world, I would like to first speak to the power of a perfection ministry. Specifically, I want to prove how these are the only ministries recognized by the Father. First and foremost, perfection ministries are the only ministries that are following the steps of Yahushua Messiah. Although many don't realize it, the Father's desire is for everyone who has been called to be assimilated to his spiritual model. Not only this, but he does not recognize anyone who is not experiencing this transformation. And it is impossible to experience this transformation if you are not in a perfection ministry, for perfection is the realization of ministry. Now, I'm not going to relitigate the validity of perfection, for I've already proven the Father's will is our perfection in the preliminary phase. If you have not listened to those podcasts, I would advise you to do so. The evidence I provide is powerful. What I've been led to do as an initiation of this series is to reestablish the baseline of perfection as a singular criterion of the Father's will. After which, I will show you how cancerous the religious circuit is and why any association with it will be to your hurt. This may be a hard saying, but it's true. If you're in a false ministry, eventually it will destroy you. It will ruin your life, and it will keep you from inheriting everlasting life. Is that what you really want? If you answer no, stay tuned to the next series of lessons, for I will be exposing the blasphemy and the anti-Mashiach nature of every ministry that is not leading men and women into Messiah's example of perfection. Then it will be up to you to rise up and, like Joseph, get you out. Now, here is the final word. If you want the Father to keep you, be careful of the company you keep. The religious world is filled with so-called leaders who are leading their flocks into endless death for one central reason. They are not on the path to perfection. They are not following the steps of Yahushua Messiah. For this reason, they are unable to deal with sin or any of the other enemies that are situated to keep them from inheriting everlasting life. Yet, instead of submitting to the Father's will of perfection, they have all turned aside, rationalized their disobedience, and made a covenant with death. I'll approve this once and for all over the next few weeks. Then it will be up to you to do what the Spirit is leading you to do. And if the Spirit isn't leading you to do anything, then there is nothing our ministry can do for you. Now, here is the assignment for today. As you have time, please go back and review all the podcasts in the preliminary phase. Trust me, the information I will share in the next phase is dependent on the knowledge I have already provided. For that reason, please take the time to ensure you have a firm foundation from which you can launch your quest for holiness. And as always, please reach out to me directly if you have any questions. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Truth About Ministry. And the next podcast is TBD. I don't know when I'll post it, but I will be led by the Spirit, and I trust you will too. Amen. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to tune in with us every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, visit us at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and make sure you sign up to join the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life 2022.